All right. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a landing page agency system from scratch. I'm also going to show you how to make it so that every single client that gets added to the system assigns a new member of the management team, and how every single deliverable that gets assigned gets added to the fulfillment team's plates so that they can get put in work. They can get put in place so that they can start working as well. I'm also going to create a dashboard table, which can be used to create a very, very simple interface, which can help you see what's going on for every single part of the operating system, which can be, once developed, divided into every single member of the team's roles, so that the CEO can see everything that happens at once, the ops manager can see everything that happens at once, the account manager can as well, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, let me show you what happens when things get put to work. So let me go back and create a new client. So this is kind of a substitute for what would be an onboarding flow. I've just made it an Airtable table just for the sake of this video. So let's just call the company name, let's just call it New Vapes, and then we'll call the client name Jackson Martinez, and the email is jackson@newvapes.com. So this client has just been added. They've just been, let's say they just filled out the contract. We have their name here, and as you can see, the account manager and the ops manager have automatically been assigned. So those guys have automatically been assigned. Onboarding call goes on the way. On the onboarding call, we get an understanding of who they are, what the brief is. Once the brief is complete, we go in here and then we add a page. And then with this page, let's add the associated client. And then what we'll see after some time, I will just add a due date as well. What we'll see after some time, and it will take a couple of seconds, the individual account manager and ops manager, who in this case are Kareem and Josephine, they will be added to the page, as well as the developer, copywriter, and designer. This will take about 30-45 seconds because it works off of an automation. It works off of these two automations, where this one here is, we have a little wait function, and then we're going to assign the fulfillment team. And in any moment now, we will have a number of copywriters, designers, developers, and all that good stuff. They'll all be added to the card. Yep, and just after a few seconds, we have the developer, the copywriter, the designer, the account manager, and the ops manager. And these individuals would have been given, in Slack or an email, a notification to say, new page to be created, copywriter, go and write the copy, here's the brief. So all of that is great to know, but let's get a little bit of a background information in. So this is the automation, which we'll get into later. Let's have a look at the background to this. So this is how I would create this landing page operating system from scratch. So I'm going to show you through some of the thinking, and I'm going to go through a few more things. So a landing page agency in and of itself is a web design agency that makes web pages and standalone sites in order to capture or convert traffic. So, they simply make websites. So can this idea of they make websites be broken down further? Well, website equals pictures, graphics, animations, text, video, and hyperlinks. So this is an example of my landing page. We've got links here, we've got text, videos, images, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So what's the desired goal of a landing page? Well, we want to create a page that gets visitors to buy your product or service, or at least give you their first party data. So how do you make a page that doesn't guide visitors to a predetermined action if we use inversion? We could have multiple buttons that send people to a bunch of different places, have confusing wording on the page, confusing pictures on the page. We don't create a visual hierarchy. We don't explain what you're trying to get people to do, i.e. we ignore basic copywriting principles. Why do these things not guide visitors to a predetermined action? Well, multiple buttons takes people away from the goal of the website, which is to purchase or give first-party data. If you have confusing wording, there's no synergy on the page, which means that the message that you're trying to deliver isn't getting delivered. If you don't have a visual hierarchy, then it creates confusion, which creates this. And if you don't explain what you're trying to get people to do, then you don't instill interest and excitement. So if you simply do the inversion of those four, you push people closer to a predetermined goal, you create synergy on the page, you avoid confusion, and you instill interest and excitement, then we'll have a page that gets people to their desired result. Why are we asking these questions? Well, put it this way. I've never created a landing page agency in my life. I myself, I'm horrible with web design. The landing page you saw above, I didn't make that. I did not make that, and I couldn't have made it if I tried. Very much manipulating templates. You love to see it. Normally, I would sit down with clients on a couple of Zoom calls in order to map out the process and ask more poignant questions about their process and how they deliver what they deliver. Since we're doing this from the ground up and I've not spoken to anybody about how their agency works, we need to use common sense to get a clear picture so that we can create this operating system. And by doing this, we can get 90% of the picture without knowing anything about the subject. And this is an example of using mental models, concentrated concepts that can be applied to real life scenarios, which can reduce the likelihood of running into stupidity. And in our case, we now know that the operating system we need to make for a landing page agency has to have the following in place: pictures, graphics, animations, text, video, and hyperlinks planned out and created for the page, a guiding principle around creating a page that pushes visitors to buy and or give an email number, a system to assess the synergy and coherence of each page, and copywriting that instills interest and excitement, which takes us very nicely into the type of system a landing page agency is. And this is going to help us create our operating system. Landing page agencies are productized businesses with one deliverable. That means each step in the process of creating a landing page goes one after the other until a finished page pops out. You create the copy for the page, or you get the brief, and then you create the design. And after you create the design, you develop the page, and then you hand the page off to the client. So the systems are: 1, create the copy; 2, create the design; 3, develop the page; 4, hand the page over. And the steps involved are, if you break this down, is you collect the assets that you need for the page, write the copy, and then you check the copy. Then you create the design elements, check the page design, and then you compile the design and copy together in a web builder like Webflow, Frame, or WordPress, and you add the animations and stuff as well that would have been highlighted in the page design, and then you do a final internal QA. And at some point, there's probably some sort of external QA that happens as well, where the client sees the design in Figma or something like that, and they say, I don't like this, I like this, I like this, I like this, approve with checks or deny or whatever it may be. We need to know this so that we can build the infrastructure, which is what we're doing now. And this first starts off with what project management is going to look like. Now, since this is a straightforward deliverable, all that's needed is one Kanban board. One Kanban board solves everything that we would need. And from that Kanban board, like I showed you before, we can get everything that we can use in order to manage the process from start to finish and make sure that nothing is lagging and everything is on time. And we can create a Kanban board in any of the following systems: AirTable, ClickUp, Notion, or Trello. And we're going to make it in AirTable this time. And this is really in order of preference as well. Airtable is number 1 for a number of good reasons. ClickUp is number 2. Notion and Trello, I like Notion as a system, but it's got such poor automation, and the stuff that you can do in Notion is very, very limited when it comes to just straight up project management. It is great for just writing, and it's great for organizing personal, but if you're doing a lot of high volume automated project management work where things need to be in order, Notion's not the one. Trello's just clunky. I just don't like Trello, so that's just my bias. Service delivery. So we'll need somewhere to create the copy and design for the page, as well as a web development tool. So let's assume that the offer for this particular landing page agency is unlimited landing pages for service-based businesses and info product companies for $4K a month. The likely tech stack for this is really simple. It's Google Docs, Figma, and Framer. That's going to come into play because we basically need it so that every single page that we work on has a link to these 3 individual softwares for every single page. And when you click on the link, it takes you directly to the page. And as far as the team is concerned, building a landing page requires a set number of skills: an eye for design, someone with copywriting abilities, development ability, someone who's savvy with, Framer, for example, which is what we're going to be using here, someone with a baseline understanding of all of the above skills for quality assurance purposes and to manage the process from start to finish, and someone with communicative skills that can liaise with clients. The team that needs to be built for this sort of agency would therefore need to include someone for each of these 5 skill sets. And there's a couple of options, right? You could either do one operator and an account manager, the operator being someone who's very highly paid, who can just make a page from scratch by themselves, which would be, and an account manager. So the account manager is client facing, and they have general copy and design skills, so that if there's any really, really small things that the client is asking about changing, they can just go in and just fix it and be like, done. And the operator who just churns out the pages. So that's one example. The other example, which is probably less efficient for, it's less efficient in the sense that there's just more bodies to manage, but it's usually a bit easier to just build from the ground up, is to have all of these split into 5 different roles. So developer, designer, copywriter, ops manager, and account manager. So let's build the project management system with number 2 in mind. All right, let's get cooking. So we started off here with a blank page. So I'm going to make it from scratch. And the first thing I'm going to do is create the clients table. And the second thing I'm going to make is the team table. Third thing I'm going to make is the pages table. And then the last thing I'm going to make is called dashboard items. All right, now clients. The first thing that we would need is some of the stuff from the contract. So company name. Let me just go ahead and delete some of these fields. So we delete those, and we delete those. And then we can duplicate this so that we have the client full name. And then after the client full name, we're going to go for an email field to get the client email. And then we're also going to create Slack channel ID. And with those, we have some of the basic, this is how to contact all of them. We're going to use the Slack channel ID for a lot of the notifications are going to work off of the Slack channel ID. So we'll leave that for now. And then we're going to get some of the other stuff from the contract. So I want the contract link, and I have a video which describes how to create a lead generation onboarding flow. That onboarding flow has the constituent parts of that onboarding flow can be applied to basically any service in where certain things need to be put in place in order for work to get started. And in part of that, the contract link will come up there, as will the contract duration, which is it's just gonna be a number field. I want a created date, which is just a simple created time field. We'll make it friendly. We'll include the time as well. We don't actually need to include the time. We could just leave it as that. And we're also going to add a amount. So like contract value, which is a currency field. We'll just set it to the normal preset of this. And then we're also going to add a formula, which is contract end date. And the formula for this is date add, and then it is created date plus contract duration. So created date and then contract duration. And then the unit is days. So that should give us, so it'll give us the exact time. It'll give us the exact thing here. We'll go back in and we'll format it because it's a date. We'll give it the friendly time. We'll remove the time part of it. And then we'll add, so if we add like 90 days here, it should add 90 days to this. So now it says the 9th of October. Let me change this so that the formatting is 0 decimal places. Yep, confirm the change. And then let's say if this guy's 30 days and this guy's 60 days, you can see that the contract end date is here. A lot of the times, if someone is being signed on for a particular amount of time, you forget the contract end date. If you have, guarantees that you need to hit in a certain amount of time and you forget to add that contract end date, then sometimes you don't have a good understanding of how much time you have left in order to do X, Y, and Z, or how much time you have left until you need to start checking for stipulations or whatever it may be, right? So having that there is always good. Contract duration is something that will get pulled automatically from the onboarding form. Created date is, and these, so will the contract value, and these two are just computed fields. So the next part of clients, so the next thing that we need to do is to now create the team. So we now have team member name. And then we need to, let's delete these fields as well, get these out of the way. And then we're going to change this status. And this status is going to be the individual members of the team. So we have developer, designer, copywriter, account manager, and ops manager. And then we can just leave that there. And then let's just create some names. So let's just create Jack, Joseph, Richard, Annabelle, Josephine, Christian, Abdul, Rashad, Chris. No, we've already got Christian. I always duplicate names whenever I do this. Let's call Shaheem and Angelica. All right, so 10 people here. Let's just assign them some random statuses. So we got, let's just say we'll have 1 developer, 2 designers, 3 copywriters, and then we'll have 2 account managers. We'll throw 1 extra designer in there, and then we'll have 1 ops manager. Sweet. So now we have the team members and the statuses. Now let's give them all a Slack user ID, which is going to be single line text. And we're also going to give them an email. Sweet. And I'm just going to create some random for 5 Jack. And then we'll just do it like this. So this one is for Jack. This one is for Joseph. We'll put Seth. This one here is Richard. This one here is Bell. This one here is Josephine. This one here is Christian. This one here is for Abdul. This one here is for Rashad. This one here is for Shaheem. This one here is for and then we'll create Jack at pagesrus.com. Cool. That's the name of our agency. Great. Joseph. And then, we'll speed through this. So we have Jack, Joseph. I'll just pause and fill this out. All right. So we have our team here. We're going to add a bunch more to this, but let's go over to pages. Now, pages, we'll call this one page name. Again, we'll delete these. And then we're going to go into the statuses. Now, the statuses here need to follow the same statuses that we basically outlined in this document here. So all of these ABC steps, these are all going to be the individual ones. So we're going to start off with, and I like to put numbers here at the start. I think this is a manufacturing thing. All I know is I've picked it up from a couple of different books, and also Ryan Hildebrand as well. Shout out to Ryan Hildebrand. The way that it starts is like 0 could be for the backlog. So these are pages that haven't been made or are in the planning stages of being made, but they don't need to be acted on yet. And then we'll go 10 is to create copy, and then 20 is internal copy QA, and then 29, because put it this way, we'll do 20 and then I'll do 30 and then we'll add the amendment steps. So 30 is create design, 40 is design QA internal, 50 can be design QA external, 60 is develop page, 70 is final QA, and then 80 is handover, and 100 is done. And then we're going to add a couple more. So considering the way that this is going to go, every single time copy is created and checked, if the copy fails the check, it needs to be amended. So 20, you can't skip to 30 before the amendments have been made. So create the copy, internal copy QA. 29 is amend copy. And for that goes all the way back up here. Design QA internal, design QA external. 49 would be amend copy. And then 59 will be amend. We'll keep 49 as the same as is, because if something fails, then it's got to go back anyways. 60 develop page, final QA, let's just say amend development for 79. 80 is the handover, and 100 is done. Sweet. So now we could color these, but I'm not going to spend my time coloring these. It's long, so we'll just leave it like that. Page name, status. All right, so we have the very, very basics down. Let's get a due date in, which is going to be a simple date, friendly time, include 12 or 24 hours. I like 24 hours, and we'll display the time zone as well. And then we're going to have a couple of other ones in. So we have created date, and this is a created time, which is going to be the same, friendly, include time. Then we're going to have last modified, and this is going to be a modified time, which is basically going to show whenever a specific field has been edited, which is going to be the status field. So we'll only have it so that the last time it was modified is when one of these statuses have changed, just like that. So that's created date, last modified date. I want to get the record ID as well, formula, and then that is as simple as just typing in record ID and then closing the brackets, and then it'll pop up with the individual Airtable record ID. So whenever a new one pops up, it comes up with a new specific ID. So we have some of the pre-computed fields here, which are going to help us with the automations. And then after these, we'll add a couple of the things that need to be put in place so that, everything is put in, basically just to help along with fulfillment. So remember, we need a couple of links. We need a link for the development, just leave that, and then I'll copy this, and then we're going to get a link for the brief, and then we're also going to get a link for the Google Doc, which is going to be for the copy. And we also need a link for the design. So we'll do this, duplicate the field, and then we have dev link, brief link, copy link, and a design link. So it should be more so like this, because that is the order in which things will be seen. And now that we have that done, we need to start linking things back to other places. So if you remember from the example, there needs to be 5 fields which are computed for every single person that gets automatically assigned to each individual page. So all the job titles need to get assigned to each one of these pages as they are made. So let's create a link to another record, and this record is going to be team. And this is going to be assigned developer, assigned dev, and we won't link to multiple records, and we will we'll filter the record where it's meant to be status is developer. So this is the assigned dev. And we don't want any of these lookup fields. We're just going to leave them alone. We're now going to go back into team, and then we're going to change this name to developer, pages developer, and then we'll allow linking to multiple records. And we have to do that each individual time for each individual person. So pages, so that's the assigned dev. Let's just duplicate the field and then call this the assigned copywriter, where status is copywriter. And then we go back in here and we go here and we say pages copywriter. And then number 3 is going to be the assigned, we've got dev, copywriter, designer, assigned designer, where the status is designer. And then we go back in here and then we call it pages designer, and we do that there. Now the next 2 we don't need to add filters for, so we'll duplicate the field and then we'll just say assigned account manager, and we'll remove this selection because the automation is going to put this there anyways. And then pages AM, and then we have the assigned ops manager, so assigned manager, sweet. So now we have that there. We then change this to pages manager. So now every single page that has an assigned dev, and from here you can only see the developers here. There's one developer and his name is Jack. Let me change this around. I don't feel like they'd only have one developer for the number of people on the team at this point. So we're going to change Joseph from a designer to a developer, and let's change the status to job title. So this is job title. We'll save. So now Jack and or Joseph should pop up under this drop down. So those are the assigned people, and we'll just create a couple of page names. So we'll just call it, in fact, we don't have any clients. So let's continue with the rest of these fields, because we now need to link certain team members to the clients. So we now need to link certain fields here to team. So we're going to create a link to team, and we're going to call it account managers, we'll just call it account manager. And then we want to link it to the team, create the field, and we're going to add some lookups as well. We're going to add the Slack user ID and the team member name, and we're going to add the email. Yeah, so account manager, team member, Slack user ID, email amount. And then we'll just change the name here. So we'll put team member name, we'll just put AM name, and then we'll put AM Slack user ID, AM Slack user ID, and then AM email. And then we're going to do the same thing so if we go back into team, because what's going to happen now is this is going to be here. So pages. We now need to change this to clients, AM, just so that we know what's going on in different places. So now the next is the ops manager. You want to link that to the team, link it to the team, create the field. We're going to add a lookup for the member name, the user ID, and the email. Team member name, and then we'll just clean this up. Oh, wait, ops manager name, and then ops manager Slack user ID, and then ops manager email. Cool. And now we have the account managers that can get linked, and then we also have the ops managers that can get linked. We also need to change the name here and put this clients ops manager. We now need to link the clients to the pages now as well. So if we go into pages and then we add another record called associated client and then link that to the clients, we don't link to multiple records. We just create the field and we skip the lookup fields and we drag that all the way over here. Now, if page, we'll just call it page 1, we'll have an associated client of which we can create one. So we'll call this guy, let's take him from the previous one, so New Vapes. His name is Jackson Martinez, Jackson@newvapes.com. This is the very first client. And channel 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vapes. So now under pages, we go to page 1, new vapes. So now we can basically see that page 1 has been created and it's for the client called new vapes. And he's ready for copy to get started as far as writing is concerned. So the backbone is almost complete. What we now need to do is we need to add a couple of counts. And the way that we're going to do that is if we take pages here. So these are client pages. We'll throw that over here a little bit closer. We're going to do a lot of cleaning up later, but let's just put this here as we need it. We have client pages. Now what we want to do is we want to insert to the right. And we want to create a total active pages, and that field type is a count, and that count is going to count client pages, and we're going to add a filter to it where the status of the page is not backlog or done, because these are active pages here. And we can see because this page is under create copy, the total active pages is 1. So if I move that to the backlog, that should change to 0, just as. So we'll put that one back and then we'll leave that there. We now need to add counts for all of the team members. So if we go to the right of each one of these, we can say developer pages, create a count. And this is going to count pages for the developer. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for all of these guys. So in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to do pages for the copywriter, developer, and the designer. And is there a design one? Yeah, for the designer. And we're going to do clients, total number of clients for the account managers and the ops managers. Reason being, the account manager is the person who's liaising with each individual. And if we're talking about from a capacity perspective, their workload increases with every new client. But for the fulfillment team, since they're not, they can or cannot be in the Slack channels, but their individual workload increases with each active page. So we want to count the number of pages so that when we start auto-assigning things to the fulfillment team, the number of active pages is what we are sorting by. But with the account managers and the ops managers, we want to sort by the number of clients. So we're going to add counts for the pages for the fulfillment team, and then we're going to add counts for the clients for the people who talk to the clients, basically, like account manager and ops manager, etc. So copywriter, if we continue, we'll add copywriter pages, and this copywriter page is going to be a count, and we're going to count pages for copywriter. And then we'll just duplicate this all out. So I'll just pause and then fill this all out. It's the exact same process for these. And for pages and for ops manager, etc., clients, AM, we're going to count these two, and we're going to count these as well. Cool. So I've added these for the individual people. In fact, I actually I'm gonna delete the account manager pages, and then I'm also gonna delete ops manager pages because we don't actually need that, because we actually are just going to count the account manager pages. All right. So we're gonna do AM client count, and then we're going to do a count of clients AM, and then we're also going to do a clients ops manager count too. So we're going to do ops manager client count. I cannot type today. Ops manager client count, and this is going to be another count, and then this is going to be the client's ops manager count. Now there's a couple of fields that I actually want to change so that this is active and that it works in the way that it needs to. So if we go back into clients, I do actually want a status, and the status is going to be active or inactive. So client status, single select, and then we have active and inactive, and we'll just change these, make them green and blue. Default option will just make us active. And then what I also want is to make it so that there's now a filter. So let's just make these guys active. And then I basically want to also, on the pages, on the individual, the linked records, I want to make it so that if we edit the field, we're only filtering by page status is not backlog or done. I'm going to do this for each of the fulfillment, all of the people on the fulfillment team. So developer, copywriter, and designer. So we're going to edit the field, and then we're going to filter the records where status is not any of backlog or done. Confirm the change, and then we're going to do the same thing for pages as well for the designer. So where the status is none of, backlog, and done. So now what's happening is it's only counting these if there are active pages. And we also want to only count the clients if their status, client status, is not inactive. So we'll do this for clients AM and we'll do this for clients ops manager as well. Filter record selection where client status is not inactive. Okay, so now what's happening is this, and the whole point of these counts, what we're going to do is we're going to sum all of these counts in a second. We want to know what's going on so that when we auto assign, the individuals that are getting new pages don't already have pages that they are working on, and the clients that are being assigned don't already have clients that they've been assigned, or we're not basically adding too many people to one stack and no one to the other stack. This is about even distribution across each individual member of the team so that the workload is spread across absolutely everybody. So we now want to add all of these 3 to create total active clients, or total active pages, sorry. So for the fulfillment team, basically we want to make it so that for each individual member, so Jack, Joseph, Richard, Annabelle, Josephine, Abdul, and Shaheem, we want to make it so that next to their name, they have a number, and that number is the number of pages that they are actively working on. And this is a simple formula, which is just the sum of developer pages, copywriter pages, and designer pages. And that is spitting out this. So if we go into pages and then we assign, we'll just open this up to make it easier. If we assign a dev, we'll give Jack this this page, we'll give Abdul this page, and we'll give Shaheem this page. We can see from the selection, total active pages, boom, boom, and boom. And you can see that they are right here as well. So they all have one active page. And if this page is for whatever reason finished, status 100 equals done. Okay, we put the filter on the wrong one. So the filter doesn't go on pages developer, the filter goes on developer pages. So on the count, we need it so that the status is none of, backlog, or done. And then that will change the name to 0. The page is still there because the page is done, but it's not active, so it comes out as 0. And we want to do the same thing for copywriter pages. So if we go into status is none of, backlog, or done, that'll fix that too. And if you go into designer pages where status is none of, backlog, or done, then it will show 0 for all of them, just like that. And knowing that, we then need to change the client count. We need to now add this filter, the status equals inactive filter. We need to add that to the client count. So if we go here, client status is not inactive, and then ops manager client count where client status is not inactive. And then whenever an assigned client shows up, which is active, it will be 1. But when an assigned client is inactive, it will show 0. So now we have all of those sorted. And then now we need to create a total active clients as well as a formula. So total active clients. And then the formula is the sum of AM client count and ops client count. And that's going to give us everything that we would need here. Let me change, I think ops manager client count's got a space on it, which is going to bug me. So let me just remove that. So now we have the total active clients and the total active pages for the team, and this is what's going to be used for the auto assign. So now we have all of this and we have all of this. And now we need to create the dashboard items. So what I'm going to do here is delete these fields as well. And then I'm going to add a created, which is going to be a created time. And this one we're going to leave as, we'll make it friendly, but we'll include the time as well. These are going to be our dashboard items, which means that they need to be pretty succinct. So we're going to leave the time there. And then we're going to have the name here. And this is going to be the name of the page. So we have page name and then we have created. We need to add a company name, which is going to be the company name that gets spits out. Most if not all of this is going to be created by the automation that we're going to make in a second. So we'll just have that there. And then we're also going to have status here. So we have the created, company name, status, and then we're also going to add a formula, and this is going to be called campaign item. And this is a formula of which is going to be a concatenation of basically every single one of these every single one of these. So it's going to be company name, and this basically works like Google Sheets formulas in a sense. So add that, and then we'll call it page name. In fact, we'll do page name first, and then we'll do company name next, and then we'll do that, and then we'll click an and then we want to put dates format, and it's going to be the created date, and then we want to do the format in DDMM YYYY. And this can be, MMDD YYYY if you're in, if you're in America, but I'm going to leave it as this. And then now we move this all the way over to the side, and we change the primary field to this. So if the page name is test 1 and the company name is new vapes and the status is 00 backlog, or we'll not even do that, we'll do 10 create copy. We now have a dashboard item that reads like this. This format is what we're going to use in order to create the interface, and that is where we can compile all of the individual information that we need in order to make that bar graph that I showed at the start, which was stacked, which showed everything in every single status. So we've made the basis of the dashboard. We now basically just want to add a bunch of clients in here and basically put this to work. So I'm going to go in here and create a form, and this is going to be our new clients trigger. And I only need 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll skip the Slack channel ID for now. So I'm going to go in and hide a bunch of, I'm just going to remove a couple of these, and then this will be the trigger that we use in order to create a bunch of new clients. So I'm just going to publish that, and then we'll just leave that as there, and then we're going to have a bunch of companies and a bunch of people that get added to the clients tab on our board. So if I add the first one, we'll just call it Electrolux, client status active, client full name can be Adam Smith, Adam at Electrolux. So if I submit that, and then let me just duplicate this tab because we're going to go back here in a second. And then if we go and view the data, we can see inside of clients, Electrolux has been added and some of the pre-computed fields have appeared. And before we make a couple more of these guys, we actually are going to make an automation. And this automation is, start from scratch, where is it? This automation is basically going to make it so that whenever a new record is created under the clients tab, we send the record ID over to make, and then we auto assign the management team, assuming that they have, empty space, or, we basically assign the most empty person on the management team to that client to begin the onboarding process. So if we do when a record is created inside of the client's step, choose a record, we'll use Electrolux, for example. We have the information now here. What we now want to do is we want to run a script. Now, scripts are something that you can't get unless you pay for Airtable, and I think it's like $20 per user per month. So, but scripts are going to be the most important thing that you would need. Now, it does look overwhelming. The only thing that you need to do is send a record ID over to make, and the way to do that is with a very, very simple formula. And this formula is with a couple of searches I was able to find it. So, and again, you'll be able to find it with this exact same search. So it is send record ID to make Airtable. How to send data to a webhook URL. If you just go in here and then you go all the way down to this part here, you can fetch the exact record ID that you would need, the exact script that you would need to have. So if I go back in here and I paste that here, you can see how it says this, and then URL equals this, !, record ID equals this. Now we need to configure this. So we need to add an input, which is going to be called record ID. And the value is going to be the record ID of step 1. So Airtable record ID here. And then we change this to record ID. And then we go into make. And what we need to do is we need to make this automation, auto assign management team to new clients. So I'm going to create a new scenario, and the step is going to be Airtable, and the step is watch responses. So watch responses is a webhook. It's just a straight up webhook. It's the same webhook that you would get if you clicked on here and then you typed in webhooks, custom webhook. It's the exact same thing. It's just the Airtable, branded version. And you need to add a new webhook. landing page agency tutorial. We'll just call it tutorial 2 and we'll call it management. Save, and then it gives you this URL. You want to copy this and then you want to stick it between the question mark and the first speech mark. And then once you've done that, click OK, run the module. And then what it's going to do is it's waiting for a response. So if I click test, it will shoot the record ID over to make. Once we give it a second to finish the test, test ran successfully, input. And we have the record ID of Electrolux, the client. So from here, all we need to do is start the assigning process. And this is a very simple automation. And all we need is a couple of routers just to make things organized for ourselves. So we're going to make 3 branches. The first branch is AirTable, and we're going to search for a record. We're going to search for it inside of this one, which is our same base. And then we're going to go to the team tab, which is here. And then we're going to sort it by the number of clients. We need to sort it by the client count of the account manager. The first branch is going to find the most empty client, the most empty account manager. I'm going to do it by ascending order, which is 1 to 9. And then we can leave the view blank. Team member name, job title, Slack user ID, and email. It's now going to port that information over. And then this formula is going to be a standard Airtable formula. So if you don't know what these formulas are, you can go into Airtable formulas, look at the formula field reference, and then you can have a nice little look at all of the things in here. Now, the same way that we were writing formulas back in the Airtable is going to be the same way that we write it inside of Make. So if we put job title equals, and then in speech marks, account manager, it's going to search for all of the account managers, and we want the limit to be 1 because we want the one account manager that is the most free. So if we do that and then we run the module, we will find Christian, who is our account manager. So we'll go in here, and then now that we've found Christian, we just want to set the variable. And the reason why we're setting a variable is because in this final branch, we're going to collect all the variables and then put them in. So account manager, the variable value is just going to be the ID of Christian. Nice. And then we can shift, copy, control C, paste, control V, delete this module, and then repeat the same thing for our ops manager. So all of this stays the same, but the job title, but the sort is ops manager client count in ascending order. And then the job title equals ops manager. And that is the job title. So if we run this again, we should find Angelica. Nice. So now that we have this, we go ops manager, and we've already got the ID for this one because we copy and pasted it, and it's just gone. And you can see from here, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. When you copy and paste, it also carries these variables over. So we now have, once this gets tested, it will take the ID and then it will push it through this router to first find the account manager and then find the ops manager. We've set these 2 variables, account manager and ops manager. So all we need to do then is get multiple variables and then just put the names in. So we have account manager and then ops manager. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a record from Airtable, which is going to get the ID from the response in the exact same base that we were working in beforehand. The table is clients. The record ID is number 1. And then the next step is to update a record. And we're going to update the record that we've just gotten. And in fact, if you want to know what this has done, I'm pretty sure I can get the record ID if I run the module again and then do a test. Testing. We found it again. If I just copy this and then I go into get a record, run the module, click the record ID, and it's now going to spin up Electrolux. So we have all of the information from Electrolux right here. Electrolux, Adam Smith, Adam at, client status active, so on and so forth. So now what we're going to do is we're going to assign Angelica and Christian to Electrolux in the next step. And that is as simple as updating this record that we found in step number 9, which is a client record. Go into record ID number 9, and then we can skip all of these and go down to account manager, add an item, go down to the variable that we got, click on account manager, and then we do the same with ops manager, and then we click OK. And then I'm going to save this. I'm going to call it management auto assign. We'll just call it 2. And I'm going to zoom out. Let me realign this so that's all neat and tidy. And then I'm going to run once. And then I'm going to send one more test. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this so that you can see it happen in real time. Let me turn it on now as well. We turn it on and rename it to new client add management team. And then if we go back into the data and we go into Electrolux, keep an eye out on these here. I'll click test because right now it's waiting for the input. I'll click test and then it will 1, 2, and 3. And then it's added Christian and Angelica to Electrolux. And what you can do here as well is you can just add a Slack or an email. And through here, you can say, hey, Angelica, Christian, here's your new client. Book them in on the onboarding, book them in on onboarding. So you could, for example, at this point, and this is all going to be also part of, it's kind of connected with the onboarding flow if you do this properly, but you can go in here, create the message, you can add them, you can, add the members to the private channel, so you can, list channel, list members, set topic, all of this stuff. So if you basically go in here, you can invite people to a channel through the join a channel part here, and you can send them the Slack message privately as well, and then all of that information is there. So we have the automation, which basically has created the assigning process. So I'm going to add a couple more clients. Now that this is on, if I click on, it should now run automatically. So I'll save the changes and then add a couple more clients. So we'll just call it Penguin, client full name, Safa Powell, Safa at penguin.com. If I submit that, then Penguin goes through here, and then you'll see in a second an account manager and an ops manager have been added. So Angelica is the only ops manager that we have, but you can see that Rashad is the next account manager. So if I add one more, we'll call tabletops, Joseph, Mark, Henry, and then we'll call it Joseph at tabletops.com. Submit, and then what's going to happen is you can see tabletops is here, and then the management auto assign is going to occur, and then Christian has been added with Angelica again as well. So this is how the auto assigning process goes. If you have an influx of people going in, then these individuals will be given the requisite message whenever they need to be, whenever they need to act on something new. So this is how you assign new clients to the individual. This is how you auto assign people to the individual clients that you have. So that's that. And we also have now clients, the individual people here. And you can see that this ops manager has 3 clients. This one has 2, and this one has 1. So total active clients here for Christian is 2, for Rashad is 1, and for Angelica is 3. So if I went in now and I made Electrolux inactive, you would see those numbers change inside of the team. 1, 1, and 2, just like that. And that is how you would make it so that the clients are added automatically, so that the team is added to the client automatically. So what we now want to do is we want to assign the fulfillment team to any new pages that have been made. So we have in here, we have a number of clients now, but we now need a number of pages. Now also, just to make this workable, just for the team in general, we're going to create a Kanban view. And this Kanban view, the stacking field is going to be status. So now we have all of the statuses up here. So we have backlog, create copy, internal copy, amend copy in the exact order that we put it in. And now we have it so that whenever a new page gets created in, backlog, might be able to hide uncategorized. Yep. So if we add a new record in, say, create copy, for example, we now want it so that the individual account manager and ops manager for the client are assigned to this page. And we also want the copywriter, designer, and developer to also be assigned to this page. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create another form, and we're going to go in here and then continue. And then we're going to put new page. And there's a bunch of stuff that we're going to hide because we don't need it. The only thing that we want right now for this new page is the client and page name and the status. So what we want to do is we want to delete the basically everything other than, just for this example, we're going to delete the notes. We're going to delete the brief link. We're going to delete the copy link. We're going to delete the design link. We're going to delete the developer link. Page name, status, due date, and then we want to go back into the fields, and then we want to add associated client. So we move that one from here to here. That's going to be right here, and then we'll publish this form. So whenever this form is filled in page name, associated client, status, due date. We then want it so that whenever the associated client has been added and a new page has been added, and the page is in, one of these, create copy or any of these ones, we then want the automation to auto assign the members of the management team to this new page. So if I go in and under page name, we'll call it Vapes page 1, and then we add new Vapes as the associated client. The status is create a copy, and the due date is, we'll just call the due date the 20. Nah, it's probably not going to take that long as a agency. We'll just put the due date for a week later, for the 18th of July. So then we submit it, and then if we go back to the data, we will see under pages, Vapes page 1, create copy, record ID, all this good stuff. So now we need to go in and we need to create another automation, which is going to send this information over to, it's going to send this information over to Make, and it's also going to create a dashboard item, because any movement that happens inside of this page needs to be reflected inside of the dashboard items, because the whole point of this dashboard is to determine how long things are spending in particular stages, and which campaign items, which clients, etc., what month, what time, etc., are things happening and are things improving over time. We have everything that we need from this alone in order to do that. We now just need to fill this with basically an inbox of actions, just like an activity log. And that activity log is created when we go into the pages and we move things around. Things are added, things are changed, and we can use an automation in order to send things over to the dashboard multiple times. So we now need to make a new automation. And this automation is called new page, assign and add to dashboard. So the trigger is when a record is created inside of the pages. We can choose a record. We choose Vapes page 1. We want to do a number of things. We want to first run a script, and this script is going to be a wait function. So the wait function in and of itself is pretty complicated. I'm just going to take the one that I already had. So this is what the formula is. I'll drop a link to this wait function script below somewhere, wherever the links are. But this is going to create a delay of 20 seconds. And the reason for that is when using this as normal, you're probably not going to have a form to do this. And if you do use the form, fine. If you don't, it is what it is. But more often than not, you'll create the page and it'll be like page 2 for an associated client, and we can call it Electrolux, for example, if it will happen. And then and then we can go in and then we can create the copy. This process of filling this out when creating a dashboard item, what ends up happening is the automation happens immediately, like right away. And when that happens, and I'll show you this in a second, the dashboard item will have a blank entry, which looks like this, which isn't useful and it's kind of just garbage data. So we want a wait function in there so that the amount of time it takes to create the associated client and the status and the rest of this has elapsed before we go in and we put it in the dashboard. So the first step is to run this wait function. And then after we run the wait function, because at the moment that the trigger had occurred and the time after the script, the individual record has changed, we want to find the record again. So if we go back in here and call the description, get the updated page description, and then it will be for this, find the record based on condition, and the condition is a dynamic one where where's the record ID? Where record ID contains dynamic, click on when a record is created in pages, this Airtable record ID. So it's now going to get the updated page description for this record after the wait function. Max record limit is 1. And then the next step here is to send it to Make, because this is going to do all of our auto assigning system. So I'm going to get the script in a second. So I've gotten the script back here, and then we want to add another input variable again, which is we want to basically copy the exact same thing we did before. Record ID is this, and then we want to create a new webhook URL, because this webhook URL is going to be for a separate automation. Now, that automation is going to be a new one that we create, which is called fulfillment auto assign. So if we create a new scenario, go back in here to Airtable, watch responses, add, and we can call it example landing page agency webhook 2 fulfillment. So now we have this address. We take this address and we put it right here in between this single speech mark and the question mark. And now that is going to give, oh, we haven't gone in and changed this. This is no longer my record. This is called record ID. This is that property. So now we're finished editing. And then from here, we also want to add a records only when, so add dashboard item is the description. And we only want to add this when the, not team, dashboard items, when the, and we now need to basically add the fields. And we want to basically do this inside of we want to do this whenever the record status is not backlog or done. Well, not whenever it's not backlog, sorry. So page name, company name, status. And in fact, I was meant to put some conditional logic here somewhere. So if let me delete this step and then add advanced logic or action, conditional logic. And the condition that needs to be met is if the status is not backlog. And then we want to add the action. And this action is going to be to create the record. And this record is going to be add dashboard item. Action will run if the status is not a backlog. We want to add this to the dashboard items, and then the fields we want are all of the fields that are inside of the dashboard items that we can fill in. So we go in here, and then we want to take the stage name. In fact, let me just double check that this isn't going by the wrong. Hold on, I'm going to do this again because I think I clicked on the wrong button. Conditional logic. When this find records tab, Airtable, not Airtable record ID, when find records field value status is not or has none of backlog. There we go. So it'll do that. A backlog item. So then we want to add as a description if it's not a backlog item, because sometimes you'll add things to the backlog knowing that they need to be made or they're being planned, but they haven't actually been put to work. And then we want to create the records, which is the dashboard item records, add the page name, add the company name, add the status. And then the page name is, if we scroll all the way down here, let me zoom in a tiny bit. We scroll all the way down here. The page name is field values page name. The company name is undefined records, field values, company name, associated client name. And then the status, find records, field values, status name. So from here, we'll update this. It's already on. Now let's run this. It's gone through here. It's now going to find the record and it's going to run the script and it's going to create the record. So let's run the entire thing. So if we just generate a preview quickly, run the tests. So it's found the record in question and then it's added vapes page 1, new vapes, 10, create copy. And campaign item has been computed and so is created. So if we go back into the data, we can see from the dashboard items, test 1 new vapes, 11/07/24, 11th of July, 1:04 p.m. That has everything that we need for this dashboard item. So we now go back into automations and then we run the whole thing. So if we just run the script and then I think I've already got it running. Yep. So it's already running there. You would just run the module only so that you can get the information from it. Click on test, taking its time, you give it a couple more seconds and then boom, we now have the record ID. And then we do the exact same thing that we did, but instead of creating instead of creating 3 of these, we're going to create 4 because we want to get the designer, the developer, and the copywriter assigned. And then we want to get all of these and then add them to the page. So if we go into Airtable, search records inside of this example here, and then the table is, and then we want to go into the team. We want to sort developer pages in ascending order, get the name, job title, Slack user ID, and the email. And then we want curly bracket, job title equals, is developer, right? Developer, limit to 1. And then we want to set the variable. So we go into tools, set variable, and this is our developer. And the variable value will be the ID that comes out of number 3 ID. So if we run this real quickly, it's going to give us Joseph. And now Joseph's ID is going to show here. So if we copy and paste these again, and we do this twice, we can get the designer and we can get the copywriter. So if we go into here and then we get designer pages, ascending, job title equals designer. And then we make this guy the designer. We check that the variable is the exact same that we want. And then we go in here, and then instead of designer, we put copywriter. So copywriter pages, ascending, team member, job title, Slack, user ID, email, developer. We want copywriter. We now have all of these set, and then we can call this guy the copywriter inside of the tools. And now we should have it such that the developer is searched for, and then his ID is added. The designer is searched for, and then her ID is added. Copywriter is searched for, and then her ID is added. And then we want to get all of the variables. So we click on get multiple variables, and then we type in developer, designer, and copywriter. And then we get the record from Airtable, which is record number 1, well, from this response, which is the page. So we go back in here and backfill this in. Inside of the pages tab, the record ID is record number 1. Click on OK, and then we update this record with the designer, copywriter, and developer. So we go back in here again, add the base that we want, and then we add the table, which is pages, and then it's going to ask for the record ID, which is the record ID from step 10. We've now got the record. All of this we leave, and then we just add the assigned dev, which is the developer. We add the assigned copywriter, which is the copywriter, and we add the assigned designer, who is a designer right here. And now, if we save this, we call it fulfillment team auto assign in brackets 2. Click save, and then we run it, and then we test it one more time. I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to duplicate this, move all of these forms over here, go back into the pages, and then we will see, if we scroll all the way over here, that the dev, copywriter, and designer are about to be assigned, as well as the account manager. Oh, the last step here, in fact, is actually to take from the client. We need the account manager and the ops manager as well. And the assigned account manager will be this person here, and the assigned ops manager will be this person here. The reason why we are doing this is because we've already auto-assigned the individual client. We've already assigned so clients and team and management team are linked, which means that the individual, whenever a client is added, the individual person who is the account manager and the ops manager will also be added. So we need to put these all in here so that all of these will run correctly. So we have a developer and a copywriter and a designer, and then these will be from the record ID that we would have found. So if we click on that, oh, did I just remove it? In fact, we are actually missing a step. So let me delete these. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this step and put it over here, because we actually want clients here and then we want pages here. So if I'm going to I'll copy this, paste it, drag this all the way over, stick it in here. So what it's going to do is it's going to get this page. So if I just quickly run this again, and then we run this test, it should spit out the record ID. And then this record ID will allow us to find this page. And if we find this page, then we will have an associated client record. And this associated client record is what we will take over here under clients. And we're going to take the client record ID from step number 12, which you can see up here. Click that here. And in fact, since we've done that just now, because we need to test it, we're going to grab the associated client's ID, and then we will search. We'll run this module using this ID. And then what will happen is it will spit out this client, Jackson Martinez, and the status, full name, email is all there. And since there are no assigned people to Jackson Martinez, we will do that right now. So Jackson Martinez is New Vapes. So let's just give him a random account manager. So let's give him Rashad as an account manager, and then we'll give Angelica as the ops manager as well. So now when I run it again inside of make, run one more time. Let me grab the record ID again. We now have an ops manager and an account manager. And these individual records are going to be the records that we put inside of the final update record part. So we stick the assigned account manager, who is this person here, and then we stick the assigned ops manager, who is this person here. And then when we run the entire thing, the individual from the individual page, i.e. the page that we just created, is going to now fill in all 5 of these. So I'm going to run the test one more time, and it's going to auto-populate everything. So if I run once, it will go through, finish all those steps, and then inside of here. Okay, so once you've gotten the variables, you then need to get the record and then update the record. Now, some of the routing here is a little bit different to the previous type of routing. So the thing that you need to remember is that what you're doing is you're getting the information that you sent from this test, which is the record ID for the page that you want to update. This page has an associated client attached to it. So when you do the first step and you run the module and you get the record ID, what ends up happening is you end up with the record of the page, and this page records, if I just run it one more time and I grab the record ID of the page, which I believe is this one, we'll get the page name, the status, and all of the other computed fields, and we'll get the associated client. This associated client carries all of the information, including the ops manager and the account manager's record IDs. So we need this here so that once we've gotten the developer, gotten the designer, gotten the copywriter, and then we've taken these variables, we then get the client, the associated client from the page. So module 12 here, which is the page which spat out this associated client. We then go in with this get a record and we find the associated client from here. And then once we've gotten the associated client, we then update the record, and the field should look like this. So record ID is for the page, and then the record ID and then we basically have the developer, copywriter, and designer that we got from the previous branches. And then the assigned account manager and the assigned ops manager are from this previous step here. And those people all go in such that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are there. When you run it, and we'll do it one more time, you run the test, it shoots these guys off all the way here, and then it adds every single person to the page. So that is how you auto assign the dev, copywriter, designer, account manager, and ops manager to each individual deliverable that needs to be created. And that is how you build the backbone of this system. So now your team can work along this route and push things along over time to make sure that everything gets added as and when they need to be added. And the final step that we're going to cover in this video is going to be whenever an update occurs to each individual card inside of this tab, when this moves over here, we want to add a dashboard item. And from here, pretty simple. All we would need to do is create another automation, which is card status changed, add dashboard item. Again, cannot spell. And then the trigger is when a record is updated, and the record is going to be the status of a page. The only field we want to see is the status. We want to create a record, and this record is to add dashboard item. So dashboard items, and then the fields that we want to add are the page name, company name, and the status, as we did before. So the page name is simply the page name as selected here. The company name is the company name as selected, associated client. So we go into associated client, and then the status is the name of the status. And then we'll run the test on here, and then we have create copy, new vapes page 1 popping up as normal. So that basically brings us to a situation where we have clients such that whenever a new client is created, all of their information is added to, and an ops manager as well as an account manager is also added to the system. The team is added, and they're added in order of amount on their plate. They're added in order of ascending capacity, and each page, whenever a page is changed, a dashboard item will pop up to say this needs to be done next, or this is just the event item that has occurred. So then for vapes page 1, it's popped up just here, status internal copy QA created. So now if a bunch of these move, you can see that I've just moved 4 things over, right? Over time, these will start to pop up. We've got these, and then the next couple will pop up as well in a second. So that basically brings us to a position where we're now able to create the interface for a dashboard item. So just to summarize, we have a client's system. We have a system around teams and adding the right number of pages and the right number of clients to people who have more capacity than others. We have a Kanban available here with all of the information that people would need for the page that they're working on, of which you can customize by, adding your notes, adding your links to the requisite things so that they can be seen from a glance. And we also have dashboard items here, which will show us when we go into creating the dashboard items, the dashboards for the account managers, the CEO, etc. We now can basically start to build that from scratch. So if you want anything like this built for yourself, there's going to be a link somewhere. Click the link and that will take you to my landing page where you can find out more information about what we do and the rest of our services as well.